Welcome to this week's episode of Off Panels, Sketch.com's creator-centric podcast. Except for this week, we're cheating a little bit as our guest isn't a creator, it's Oliver Sava from AV Club. Thanks for coming on, Oliver.
Howdy, thanks for having me.
I wanted to bring Oliver on because it's, Oliver, I just have to ask, doesn't this kind of seem like one of the craziest times in comics in recent memory with DC and Marvel kind of changing everything and Image Expo dropping like 20 new books yesterday, and then, I don't know, we haven't even got to San Diego yet, and it feels like everything's changed.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much restructuring happening right now that it's very exciting. I mean, especially at something like Image Expo where you don't get a huge amount of sci-fi books and you get a bunch of different titles. That's really fun to hear. And then, I mean, honestly, I'm enjoying DC the most right now than I have in years at this point. I thought that the June DCU campaign, whatever we want to call it, was pretty successful. Not across the board, but there was a lot more stuff that I'm interested in and more characters that I'm interested in, especially Superman. I mean, they've done some really great stuff with Superman, and I don't know. I don't read all of those books, but I read half of them. I like them. So, but I mean, yeah, I was really excited about Marvel's announcements, and then, man, just all of the air, the balloon was getting so big, and then they just stick a needle in it, and then they kept sticking all those needles, and all the air was gone by the end. I was not pleased.
So I can assume that your initial response was not positive then to the Marvel all new, all different line announcement.
Marvel, some same, more same Marvel. No, it was so disappointing to me. I don't know. I was so excited because there was all of the talk. Yeah. There was all of this marketing about how it's going to be this really diverse group of creators. I'm like, who are they going to get? Are they going to go and grab some people from First Second, from, I don't know, like, are they going to go get some new Image people? Are we going to see some women? Are we going to see, I don't know, some people of color in there? I mean,
right.
There's so many different creators that could be on these books, and all of them went to people that are at Marvel already. Some capacity, even if it's like the Agent Carter showrunners, I'm excited for their Captain Marvel, but at the same time, it's not different. It's people that are working for Marvel that are very, very deeply ingrained in that corporate machine, and I really was hoping for some new blood. Yeah. New, different. Come on, guys, don't tell me this and then not give it to me.
Yeah, I think that's the really frustrating thing. And it seems like, and from what I've read on Twitter, it kind of sounds like, you're a little bit more upset about the fact that they didn't really bring any, they didn't take any honest new tries to the creator side. But I think even the book side is interesting because it seems like, you were talking about DC, it seems like even DC is kind of moving more towards books that aren't aimed at everybody. They're kind of aimed at niches. Mm-hmm. And that, like, they know that they're not going to sell like 200,000, but they're going to sell like 40, 35 to 40 every single month, and that's something that they can work with. Like,
yeah, you're getting at least you're getting a Prez, you're getting a Midnighter, you're getting Omega Men, versus we're like Venom and Carnage are getting books. Like, what? As part of 8 different Super Spider-Man titles? Like, I mean, Spider-Man is essentially Marvel's Batman at this point. Like, right. It's the Spider family, and then it sounds like they're doing a Batman Inc. type of Spider-Man for Amazing Spider-Man because the Parker Industries is in China or whatever. Like, it just seems like we're going to start seeing that exact story from DC 10 years ago or 5, however long it was, right, with Spider-Man now. But, like, that could be really exciting if it wasn't Dan Slott writing his 10th year of Spider-Man. Like, come on. Give me somebody different. Like, I would have loved to read, like, Catherine Imonin's Amazing Spider-Man. Like, if it's going to be something different. But, like, you didn't give me anything different. You literally gave me the exact same creative team that has been doing, like, 18 issues a year at this point. I've read so many of their stories. I just want to see somebody different.
Oh, no, I completely agree. I mean, it's really bizarre when, like you said Catherine Imonen, and, like, She is. I think she's fantastic. Like I really liked her Runaways stuff.
Oh,
I actually really love Patsy
yes.
Walker Hellcat, and I'm one of the only people who apparently like that because nobody in my shop liked that at all. I thought that was
Oh my
fantastic.
gosh. No, I love how madcap and silly her stuff is. Her Avengers annual from I think 2 years ago, it was her and David LaFuente again
Yeah,
doing like an Avengers Christmas story. It was the best thing that came out of Hickman's Avengers, I feel. Like it was done in one. It was using that weird cast of characters that he got and just with a different voice, something that was a little sillier, something a little more irreverent. Like when I look at the list of Marvel books, I'm not getting like light fun, which is what I got from a lot of the DCU announcements. You had a real active approach to like bringing in younger readers with Bizarro and Batmite. Like I don't really care for Batmite, but I think Bizarro is a fantastic title,
yeah.
and that's the kind of stuff I want more of. Like, where is Squirrel Girl? I'm
Oh
serious.
my
If
god.
Squirrel Girl is not back by the end of the year, I'm gonna raise some shit, man. That and She-Hulk. If they want to do like a She-Hulk and Squirrel Girl, Marvel team up, Buck, I'll be fine with that. No, I was just gonna say we're Squirrel Girl some more. So
I am a huge fan of Squirrel Girl, and I didn't expect to like that book because I don't know. I mean, it was Squirrel Girl, and like for the most part, she's kind of handled as a joke. And North or Ryan North and Erica Henderson were so perfect on that book, so
yeah,
perfect.
did you read North's Adventure Time?
I didn't. No.
So that's the thing. I review Adventure Time at AV Club, and like I should not like Adventure Time comics as much as I do, but because I spend so much time with it. But they killed on that book. Or I guess Ryan North and the art team that he had. But like, it was so funny. It was so perfect. So when he was announced as the writer, I was like, this is going to be really good. And Erica Henderson's really, really good too. So maybe like I know she's doing Jughead, so maybe they just are taking a couple months off.
I don't know.
But
I don't know. I thought
I'm
it
scared
was.
for my girl. I'm scared for Squirrel Girl.
I thought it was really strange though because like I mean it's not like the book is doing that poorly.
And
Now,
she's going to be in the new Avengers book.
oh, is she? I didn't know
She's
that.
part of the lineup. But that book's lineup looks awesome. I don't really like that artist though, Gerardo Sandoval, I
Yeah.
believe. It's like Joe. It's like C grade Joe Madureira. I'm gonna butcher so many of these people's names, but that's Al Ewing doing like Sunspot and Songbird and Hulkling and Wiccan and Squirrel Girl. Like that sounds ridiculous. Sign me up. I'm down for Al Ewing's books at least,
Yeah.
except for Contest of Champions. I don't know what the hell that book is.
Yeah, I don't. I have no idea why that would have been one of the books because it's like
A video game tie-in.
well, and it was like they had like the 3-issue miniseries in like 1982 or something like that. I don't really know who the market is for that, and I guess that's one of my big problems is like the weird thing when I look at the all new, all different announcement is it's weirdly similar in some ways to the new 52.
Yes, I was waiting. I was like, he's gonna say New 52 at the end of this. I know it.
I mean, it is, but I mean, like even down to the fact, and I like Frank Barbieri, and I like Brett Schoonover, however you pronounce that. I apologize in advance for both Oliver and I horribly mispronouncing names apparently through this entire podcast. But Howling Commandos of Shield, like, doesn't that really remind you of Frankenstein, Agent of Shade?
Yeah, but but they also they did that concept before Frankenstein Agents of Shade did it, because I believe Keith Giffen did a weird Shield Howling Commandos series in maybe 7 years ago or so. So I actually am like, that's one book that seems at least weird.
Yeah, that's true.
That one. But in terms of like, I kind of just have like the same like level of excitement as New 52, and I remember just not being thrilled at all. But at least they're not erasing continuity in this situation, which I guess continuity is a discussion for an entire another day, because I wouldn't mind like all of these books just existing in their own little thing and nothing's tied together. But
well, honestly, like it's funny that you mentioned that because I've always said, like, I'm a big Miles Morales fan. I think he's fantastic, and personally, like, I have this theory about Bendis, and my theory about Bendis is he's much better off when he has his own sandbox that isn't connected to anything else,
yep.
and that like if they just just pretend that like Miles Morales is not part of any universe, just let him be the Ultimate Spider-Man forever, keep him out of the universe, and let Bendis keep doing it. I think that book would keep going forever. I don't know what that book will be like when it has to deal with, like, you know, the next Secret Wars and the next, I don't know.
And being an Avenger.
Right.
Like, the thing is, Bendis also is at his best when he's got a single character. So that's what he's got going for him. It's not a team book, at least. Like, I feel like he does better work when he just has one solo character to focus on. But at the same time, like, I could give a shit about Iron Man, Bendis and Marquez Iron Man. Like, that is, like, not a team that thrills me for that character. And it's like, I don't know what it's going to take to get me excited for Iron Man, though, because, like, nobody does it for me on Iron Man. It is just, and I should be really interested. Oh my God, like James Stocco on Iron Man. I am down for that. Like, I need somebody who's going to give me crazy, amazing tech, like, I don't know, maybe some, like, manga style mecha action, but I can't get into Tony Stark at all, which is like, I guess I'll read the first couple issues of Bendis. I don't know. There's the thing with Bendis too, where it always seems like because he has such a big role at Marvel, you get the feeling that he has first pick of everything, and he picks the things that are going to be movies. Like last year, when there was Guardians of the Galaxy and X-Men, he was writing both, and he had them cross over because he knew that there was going to be a trade on stands by the time those movies come out, and he's getting probably a great cut off of that. Like, you know, he's getting nice residuals. Like, he's a creative coordinator or whatever his position is with Marvel Studios. Like, they use him. Like, he's a very smart creator. He knows what he's doing. He's a great businessman, but, like, I don't know if he's necessarily passionate about these books. Like, Guardians was so boring after a while. I was buying it because the art was gorgeous, but like the cosmic stuff at Marvel has really fallen short for me.
Right, absolutely. And I actually had never thought about that movie correlation before. I just thought that they were kind of just playing musical chairs with everybody, and it just seemed like, where has Bendis not been before? But that makes sense, especially because, you know, obviously they want to have a flagship guy on Guardians when the movie comes out. But you're right. I mean, it makes sense that he would want to be there.
He knew that movie was going to be big because he is watching these movies get developed. Like, he has that insider view that not everybody else has. He knows that Guardians is going to be super clever, super colorful, like, and he wants to get in on that. And I mean, I can't fault him. Guy's got kids. He's got a family. Like, at the same time, I would love to see a different voice. Like, I want to see somebody different take on Miles, and I want to see Sarah Pichelli with a different writer too, because she's been saddled to him since working with Imonen on Runaways. I feel like she's been with Bendis ever since.
Yeah, you know, I think, like, what you're saying about how, like, Marvel just they just went back to the well with a lot of this stuff. I mean, the most perplexing part for me is you take, you know, Cullen Bunn, who's been kind of moving up over the past few years, and then you put him on Uncanny, which is fine, but then you put him with Greg Land, who we've seen on Uncanny again, and no one, I mean, Greg Land could be the...
Land and Ramos. We've seen them both on X-Men books.
Yeah.
It's just insane, because, I mean, all new, all different, guys. I cannot... It drives me batshit that they had this as their slogan, and half of these books are by people that have worked on the characters.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay, so let's just start from there.
But yeah, let's Greg Land.
No, but I mean, like, we both would like to see more more new creators to it. But, you know, it kind of seemed like, it doesn't seem like Marvel was interested in that. But besides just new, different types of creators, what would you like to see more from those announcements? Like, what would have made you more interested as both a reader and somebody who has to write about these comics?
Black Panther, America Chavez, some, like, not white man heroes. Like, I mean, Karnak is getting his own book, for God's sake. Like, and I think that they're waiting for some of this stuff at San Diego. Like, they want to have some stuff for San Diego. And, I mean, there's been rumors of an America book. There's been rumors of Black Panther. We don't know who's working on them. But, you know, it's probably going to be Bendis or Al Ewing or something. Like, some of these writers have, like, 4 different books. Like, that was the other thing. Like, I like Al Ewing as a writer, but they couldn't find a couple different people to take one of those 4 books that he's writing.
I actually had the same comment, and this is going to sound super insulting to Al Ewing, and I apologize in advance, Al. I like your writing.
Love you, Al. You're a great writer.
you're great, but it kind of reminded me with like the New 52 again, when they were just like, I guess we'll put Scott Lobdell on it.
I feel like I'm psychic, man. I feel all your sentences as you're finishing them. I'm like, he's going to say Scott Lobdell now.
Maybe I'm making obvious points. I'm not sure,
but it's like it's because they are legit connections. Scott writes the glut of Scott Lobdell books at that New 52, and the thing is, the difference is that Marvel has a way better pool of creators to pick from.
Right.
Like, people jump ship from DC to Marvel. That's especially like with artists. You see that a lot more than the other way around. People go to Marvel, and then like the Marvel creators eventually are like, we made enough money, let's go do our own shit in Image.
Yeah. We saw, and you saw Kenneth Rockerford jump ship over to Marvel on this one, and I think that is interesting. But I think one of the biggest misses for me, and you're talking about creators, is you have all these openings because Remender's not doing anything anymore. Obviously, Fraction's been out for a bit. You have Hickman's out, and then you also have Kieran Gillen said the other day that he's focusing on creator own, and also Alesh Kott is not doing stuff. So
yeah,
and you fill the void with like. Somehow they still had mostly the same creators on it. It's interesting that they couldn't have found a spot for new creators. But I think you're right. I think more is coming from SDCC, and I think that might be the more outside the box stuff, because I think
guess, but why release this big book, like, and I guess this was all doomed from the start, like releasing a book to retailers. I was thinking the exact day everything was leaking, I was like sitting in my apartment, I'm thinking, like, I wonder when all those things are going to leak, because like a retailer I'm sure has that very soon, and somebody's going to send that to Rich Johnston.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. Like, so of course, and Marvel knew that was going to happen. They know that computers exist. They know that people can take pictures with their camera phones. Like, but it's part of this. It's all of what they're saying versus what they're doing, because like even then it's supposed to look like this big movement to like we're putting the faith in the retailers.
Right.
Like, we're going to give retailers the first scoop because we're giving them this book. Not thinking that, retailers get that a couple days beforehand, before it even goes on sale. Some of them, like, they know that there are people that leak this stuff because it's happening for, like, the entire internet.
I was just going to say, I think that's the hilarious thing is like, so I wrote a piece on this, but effectively, like, it seems like how they handled it's not that I necessarily think all the books are bad. Like, I think a lot of these books could be really good. Like, I think the Doctor Strange book looks awesome, but
no, that's the thing. I will read the first issue of a lot of these. Like, there's nothing. I'm not going to say there's nothing that I'm writing off. There are definitely some books that I'm not super intrigued by. Like, honestly, like Bun and Land on Uncanny X-Men with the lineup of like villains plus Psylocke, I'm not interested.
No,
that is, and Bun is spread really thin. He's writing like 7 books right now, like including 3 things at DC. He's gonna be doing a bunch of stuff at Marvel. He's always doing a bunch of creator-owned stuff. Like, I don't know, some of it suffers. I've tried to read Lobo. That's not a good book. No. I just can't really get into it at all. But maybe somebody I know Caitlin Roseberg at the AV Club really enjoys Lobo. So I mean, it's different strokes for everybody.
Yeah. But like I was saying, like I think it really comes down to how Marvel handled it, because they presented it as all new, all different. It wasn't. They presented it as if it was going to be this big thing where they're giving this good guy to the retailers, and then they didn't leak stuff. They announced stuff for like 10 days beforehand.
Yeah, first off, where they were like, we're not going to do the usual teases.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, and I mean the big thing, like they were talking up diversity a lot. And, like, there's a difference between diversity and representation and all of that. But, like, if you say diversity, there's diversity of tone, there's diversity of characters. But, like, the biggest thing right now in comics, the big issue I feel is creator diversity.
Mm-hmm.
It's, like, it makes such a huge difference when you have a different point of view than what you're getting. Like, and there are plenty straight, white, cis male writers that can write amazing stuff. But I mean, I'm sure there are just as many women and people of color that can write that, and that is what, like 1 in every 10 gets a chance to write a big book in Marvel and DC, if that. Like, how many people of color are even in the new Marvel announcements?
Not many at all.
I'm trying to think, like, is it the fact that we can't have one, like, right off the top of our head tells me that there's a problem, or that there should be something there. There's a void that's not being filled.
I was going to say Sanford Green, but I guess they didn't announce a Runaways book.
Oh, he doesn't have a book.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got to feel like there's a Runaways book coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like that's got to come. But
I mean, here's the thing: I'm really liking Secret Wars. That's why I was so excited. That's why I was so excited for the new Marvel announcements, because I feel like with the Secret Wars books, they're giving me what I was expecting from the new Marvel Now announcement, which is like a bunch of kind of weird books that are legitimately different, even though a lot of them are rooted in stuff that's already happened, but they like use it as a springboard for something different. And like, great, a new Nova book. That's fun. Why is it not the Nova family from Infinity Gauntlet?
Oh my god, that book
is amazing.
So good.
I'm such a crazy fanboy for that book, and there have been 2 issues. I'm so passionate about it, and it's like, why? Why do I care so much? And same for like E is for Extinction. When you have creators that do really like bold work, I want to see more of that. And they've been saying that all of the Secret Wars books are planting foundation for things that are going to be in the post Marvel universe. But it's like, at this point, I'm just thinking like the X-Men, that like rumored X-Men planet, it's probably going to be Battleworld. I'm telling you, it's going to be Battleworld.
Probably.
They're just going to like live on Battleworld, and they'll have to deal with like Old Man Logan and whatever other worlds are over there, and then everybody else is just going to hang out on the old Marvel world.
Well, and Axel Alonso said that Battleworld is the status quo from going forward, right? I don't really know.
I don't think he did. I don't think Battleworld's going to be there the whole time, is it?
I could have sworn that he said that. I could search it right now.
There's no way that Doom is going to be the god of everything at the end of Secret Wars.
Oh, no, I'm not saying in that capacity, but...
they're just going to leave Battleworld? I mean, I would love that. That would be like that would be the thing that would get me the most excited about all different Marvel. The fact that they have a new landscape, which is why they would need to have a Runaways book, because that's like the tour book. Just go through all the different Battleworld domains.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and what you said about Infinity Gauntlet Infinity Gauntlet is exactly right. I mean, like that book, I think it's doing fairly well, although I saw from a retailer that it wasn't selling well at the shop. But that book is beautiful. It's got Dustin Weaver doing incredible things on it, and it's got a diverse cast of characters that like have never been seen before that we immediately care really strongly about. And it seems weird that they would introduce them and then just be like, we're over that. But I guess that's kind of Marvel, isn't it?
I'm getting like really worried that this family I really like is going to die in Secret Wars. It's like Marvel's like, here guys, here is your like really fun Incredibles style family, but it's like a black family living in this like destroyed urban environment, like a completely different circumstance. But here's something different. Now they're all going to die.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. Enjoy. I hope you liked your 4 issues. Now go fuck off. Right, and it's like the same thing. It's like I'm loving E is for Extinction, and it's like at the end it's just gonna be like Beak and Angel and all of them just like turn to fucking dust, and then it's whatever the hell's happening with the Inhumans and the X-Men going forward. I don't know. I feel like I'm being so bitter right now. I shouldn't be so bitter, but
let's talk about something you're enjoying more. So you have been enjoying DCU.
I have. I haven't been like loving everything, but I've been enjoying a lot of it.
Well, and you had a write-up that went up about Midnighter today, and what is it exactly that you love about what you're seeing from DC right now? Like, you may not love everything across the board, but you're enjoying. It seems like you're appreciating their efforts, at least.
Yeah, I mean, with Midnighter, the key there, I think, is honestly romance and getting like the personal life of that character making and like the personal life of that character is a gay personal life, so it's such a huge part of being gay. And you don't really like, I read a few issues of Garth Ennis's Midnighter, which I think like the first arc was him like going back in time to World War II or something. I don't really remember. It wasn't a very gay book. Like it certainly wasn't Midnighter going on dates with people, at least from what I recall.
No, I don't think so.
That's what I'm really enjoying about that book. And I mean, there's some really killer action sequences there. Like Steve Orlando just knows that character. It has a really interesting angle on him. But I mean, you're getting the tone of that book is completely different than the tone of Bizarro, which is so cartoony and so not attached to anything at DC. Like that book exists in its own little world, which is awesome. And then Omega Men, I'm just thinking of the stuff that came out this past week.
Sure.
It's the freshest in my mind. And then
Prez.
Omega Men, which I like, I like Grayson. I don't love Grayson. I think I actually need to revisit the early issues of it because I'm really enjoying Omega Men and I really like the pacing of it. Like, I think it's making me so much more interested in the cosmic DC than I am in cosmic Marvel. And I think it's because they're making such overt political ties as sort of this, like, it's this kind of interesting take on the U.S.'s role in the Middle East through, like, the terrorist superheroes. I don't know. It's interesting, and that's got a cool art team, too, which is brand new to DC.
Well, for me, like, by far, like, the weirdest book has got to be Prez. I mean,
Prez,
like,
that's a Vertigo book. It is a Vertigo book. It reads like a Vertigo book, but it's a DC, like, it's not, but it kind of, when I read it, it felt like a classic Vertigo book to me.
It read, like, did you ever read John Arcudi and Doug Mankey, who both of the names I may have just killed? They did Major Bummer back at...
I've never read Major Bummer. I've heard a lot of things about it.
I really love that book, but that was a DC proper book, but that book is weird. Like, that book is just straight up weird. And Prez, like, I read Midnighter. I actually didn't read Omega Man. I might have to go revisit that.
It's solid. The first issue I liked. The second issue I thought was really good.
Yeah, but Prez is so outside the box for them. But it's interesting because I feel like, you know, in terms of the general conversation of comics, it seems like, generally speaking, DC is the tread upon one. No one likes them. Like, they're like the ones who are always kind of messing up. But like, it seems like with their recent moves in terms of like staffing, like a lot of the people they hired were very well respected in the industry. And
they took a lot of Marvel people.
They did.
A lot of Marvel people just went to well, it's because I wonder why. I don't know why, but yeah, I feel like Mark Doyle was a Marvel guy, right? He was the X-Men editor.
No. Mark Doyle was Vertigo before he came over to the Batman line.
Who am I thinking of?
Mike Martz.
Mark Martz? Is he at DC now, right?
No, Mike Martz started like his own company or something like that.
Oh God,
it's hard to keep track of all of them.
I feel like there was some people that recently, who knows, maybe I just made all that up.
No. There's always a lot of shifts, but I mean, like, I like seeing like Jamie S. Rich coming over from like writing his own books to being part of Vertigo. I think that's exciting. And then you have Andy Corey coming, or however you pronounce that, coming from Comics Alliance, actually, to...
That was really exciting. I was really stoked for him when I saw that.
Yeah,
I was stoked for DC. I mean, like, he's that's an opinion that I trust when it comes to superheroes, and that I think understands the appeal of them. So,
but it is kind of fascinating that DC's in this position where they're kind of getting things right, and it seems like Marvel's kind of missing the mark. I don't know.
Yeah, well, the thing is, DC, I think you have to like keep in mind that so much of the larger conversation about these companies is defined by not the comics.
Yeah,
it's defined by, like, especially like the movies hold the most weight in the cultural consciousness. So if Marvel's slaughtering DC at the movies, Marvel is winning in the culture wars. And then, but like, DC's beating Marvel at TV, but I mean, it's TV. It's not movies. Right. TV doesn't make billions of dollars every year. So like, but the DC is making up for the New 52. They dug a big hole for themselves. And those first, like, I feel like they started to fix things about like the last year of the New 52, but they dug a really big hole for themselves by erasing everything and replacing it with not good.
Yeah. I think one of the interesting moments was, so I think Marvel and DC both had these moments that they both could have learned from, and DC found it instructive. They saw Batgirl, and they saw they could learn from this, that people would appreciate, you know, a different approach, a younger approach, something new. And Marvel had Ms. Marvel, and they don't seem to have learned anything from that. That like what like a lot of people are really wanting is something that is truly new and truly different. Because, you know, oh God, I'm horrible at this. She is just like, you know, an amazing character. The book is fantastic. It's written by G. Willow Wilson, who is a woman and who is a Muslim, and she's approaching the book. You know, it's like Spider-Man was in the '60s, except for done for modern times for a very specific or a very different audience, and it's incredible. It works really well, and it's a cross-platform hit. It's a mainstream success, and I don't know. I'm just kind of shocked that like Marvel didn't learn from that.
It's just amazing how you can get some, like, it's amazing what a big difference it makes when you have a writer that is of the same whatever of that character. In Ms. Marvel, you have G. Willow Wilson, who understands a Muslim lifestyle and like that culture, and in Midnighter you have Steve Orlando, who's a bisexual writer who understands that lifestyle. Like, it makes a really big difference. It's why I want to see a black writer on Black Panther, like Christopher Priest.
Yeah,
Understood like the things about Black Panther that make him really interesting, and that book was so ahead of its time. I wonder what would happen if if Priest's Black Panther was coming out nowadays.
I think it'd be a much bigger success. I mean, I love that book. That book is a really incredible run.
So dense and so, like, there are so many ideas in that book, which is like kind of what you want from a book that's about this extremely way more advanced than everybody else African nation. There's so much meat there that you can make a really cool book out of it, and that's what Priest did. I mean, he did some really crazy shit on that book.
Yeah, he did. It was, I mean, like you said, it was ahead of its time. I mean, like, you read, did you ever read his Quantum and Woody?
I've read only little bits and pieces of it.
Okay. Yeah, like, I thought that book did a really good job. Like, it approached race in a way that, like, I don't know, it was easy to appreciate no matter your perspective on the subject, and he didn't pull any punches, and it made the book better, and it made it more honest, and it made it more funny. And I think that's kind of what you need for, you know, like you said, you need a person whose perspective matches. It's not like saying that he has to run Wakanda and like have a lot of vibranium in his backyard or something like that, but he has to appreciate the background of the character, and I just find that to be it's interesting that they missed that point of it, but I don't know. I guess we're kind of going round and round on that, but
yeah, but it's like I like Nick Spencer as a writer. I think Nick Spencer is a great writer, but you know, if we're gonna have a black Captain America, let's get a black person to write Captain America. A man or woman, I don't care. But you know what? Their experience is going to be so much different than Nick Spencer's experience as a white man.
Right.
Like, their life experience is going to be completely different. And maybe not completely, but it's going to be different because, you know, it's America. Treated differently, unfortunately. Like, it's the sad fact of living in this country, but especially like over the last year or so where race relations have become so heated, I would love to see that point of view in a book that has that kind of point of view as a central character.
No, I completely agree. And it like I said before, it's not just the weird thing about it isn't just that it's like a good storytelling decision. It seems like ultimately it'd probably be good for Marvel's bottom line, given how Ms. Marvel did.
Yeah,
but
I mean, Ms. Marvel is the super rare exception, though. Like, how many new characters get introduced that just don't hit it big like Ms. Marvel? Robbie Reyes, I mean, the first arc of All New Ghost Rider is super cool, but like that didn't light the world on fire, even though that's another book where you have Felipe Smith, who is a Latino writer writing a Latino character that brought a completely different perspective to that book that felt unique to that book. And that's what I want more of. Like, you're not I don't know how much style, I don't know how much like of a distinct perspective these new Marvel books are going to be. And I mean, I feel like that's the fear with these corporate owned properties. They can become super homogenized, and there's so much potential in comics as a really representative medium to the individual that is working in it. Like,
Right.
because it's what, a creative team of maybe like 4 people, unless you have Chris Bacalo drawing your book, in which case you have 10 inkers. But like, it's a fairly limited creative team, and you're going to get their point of view if you choose the right people. If you choose the people that are actually bringing things that matter to them on the page, which, I mean, I feel like that's a lot of what Alish Kott did with his Marvel work, especially. Like, he kind of just dropped in there, did some wacky runs on huge characters, and pieced out and went and did his own stuff. But it's a really interesting creative exercise, and I think that he has benefited a lot as a creator coming into Marvel, working inside those restraints that are naturally there because of the corporate property atmosphere.
Right.
And then working within those confines, but finding a way to keep his own perspective. And Marvel took a chance on him. They should start taking more chances on people. There are new people coming up every single day. Like Noelle Stevenson, she had a Secret Wars book already. Why doesn't she have a book attached to her? Like, she's a hot name right now. She has, what, 4 Eisner nominations?
Right.
She just stepped off of Lumberjanes. Your Marvel Comics, give her an offer. She'll do something for you.
I have to feel that, like, she just announced a graphic novel, didn't she?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I have to imagine that she does, like I said, like, and well, you said too, like, San Diego, I feel like something is coming because I don't think Noelle Stevenson steps off of Lumberjanes just for the graphic novel. I feel like she's probably got to have other offers on the table or something like that because, Lumberjanes, it seems like it's both like a vital creative experience for her and it's also seemingly a financial success for her. So I don't know. It seems like there's got to be more to that story.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, I'm so obsessed with like an America Chavez book just because I really liked Vengeance. Which, have you ever read that?
I never read it.
So it's her intro, and it's Joe Casey and Nick Tragotta, and Beak and Angel are in it from New X-Men,
Right.
and like it is one of those. It is a weird Marvel book. Like, it feels like a early 2000s type of weird Marvel book, which I guess makes sense because Casey was kind of part of that. And it's Nick Dragotta, so it's just absolutely gorgeous. So I really like her because of that more. I think, honestly, that more than Young Avengers, so much style. Like, she's the best part of that book.
Yeah, well, I think you're right, though. I mean, it's funny because, like, Casey, I don't think he's capable of not making a weird book. Like,
his shit's so weird nowadays, too. I love that he's just stepped away and has really just doubled down. Sex is just the strangest book.
My favorite part about Joe Casey is the fact that you think about this person who's doing all these super weird comics is also one of the people involved with creating Ben 10.
Ben 10, Ben of Action.
It's so weird. And like, that's not to say that like Joe Kelly is like some sort of like priest or something like that because he like, I'm not saying that like I Killed Giants was like adult or something like that, but obviously not very similar in tone to like a Ben 10 or most of Man of Action stuff.
Yeah, and I think Steven Seagal is in that group too, and he's definitely done some mature stuff. So
yeah. Even though he did, like, I did like seeing that they announced an all ages book from him and that I'm trying to remember his name.
The Image.
Yeah.
What was it? Something about camp or haunted? Something.
Camp Midnight.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think like I love seeing all ages books. I mean, I know that like not to make this an Image thing now, but I know that Eric Stevenson really would like to see more all ages books at Image, but it is nice seeing them publish something like that because I don't know. I mean, like all ages, I feel like is so important, and that's one of the reasons why I thought Squirrel Girl was so valuable because I love seeing in letters columns people writing in with their kids holding like copies of Squirrel Girl and their drawings of Squirrel Girl and stuff like that. I thought that was so invaluable to Marvel as a company and the industry wide because we need more kids. There needs to be more kid readers.
we need to like Teen Titans Go is invaluable for superheroes because that is like a comic that reaches a huge number of kids, and that's probably how they're being introduced to a lot of these characters at this point, which I love because that show is ridiculous. I love the idea that it's like the first time somebody meets Robin is this episode where Robin has to wait at the grocery store. And like the first episode, I just watched the other day an episode where Starfire, it's one of those classic, if you love it so much, why don't you marry it things. And it's a bowl of chili. So there's an entire subplot of Starfire getting married to a bowl of chili. And it's like, I would, that's what Squirrel Girl did that. Gave me that kind of really irreverent, silly superhero stuff. Because, I mean, you can watch superheroes fighting supervillains all the time, but it's like, I want a goofier book. I want something that requires some imagination on the writer's part. And, like, watching an episode where they learn about the value of money by selling each other bees and like getting stung the entire time. I would rather see like Teen Titans at DC. Do you read that book?
No.
Because I read like the first 4 issues or so. I like Will Pfeiffer, but it did nothing for me and it didn't feel young. That's the thing. Teen Titans, like my teen books, I need them to feel, I guess, quote unquote hip.
Right.
But that's true. Like Batgirl feels like a young book to me, and I need to get that. I don't get it from a lot of Marvel comics. It seems from any superhero comics. It's just a lot of catering to the whatever 30-year-old white guys that have been buying our comics for a really long time, 30 plus.
Hey, I'm a 30 plus white guy. I'm 31.
I'm close. I'm almost there. 28. But
okay, Axel Alonso talked about this in one of his I don't even know what they call that column on
Axel in Charge.
Axel in Charge, that one. Yeah, so he was talking about how they're going to approach these with more like a season structure in mind. I love that idea personally. Like I'm a big fan of like one of my favorite books ever is Next Wave, and I love the fact that it's just 12 issues. It's 2-issue arcs. It's easy to jump in, no matter
Warren
what.
Warren Ellis. That's what he does. He dropped at Marvel, especially. He would just like drop in for 6, maybe 12 if you're lucky, and then he's gone.
Well, and I don't. People have this huge issue. Like it was hilarious when Bleeding Cool was dropping all those books, and there was the Karnak one, and somebody tweeted. Like, didn't even tag him in the tweet. They said, oh, I bet Warren Ellis is only on that book for 6 issues. And Warren Ellis retweeted it because Warren Ellis is hilarious. And I don't know. I mean, I don't see that as a bad thing. Like,
no, it's first off, Karnak. That book's a mini series. Let's not kid ourselves. That nobody's sticking around. Especially, I don't think anyone at Marvel thinks that a Karnak ongoing is a smart thing. But they were like, Warren Ellis. He gave us a list of characters, and one of them was Karnak. So, let's do it. And Zafino's an amazing artist. Have you seen any of his stuff? Yeah,
he's really good.
Oh.
Is he related to Jorge Zafino?
I don't know, but
I've seen his stuff, and he's really fantastic, and it's perfect for Ellis. And that book is going to be awesome. But that's another thing is like one thing I'd like to see more is, like I said, more of like the Next Wave structure. And one thing I liked about DC is they didn't kid around. They knew some of these books had to be miniseries. Like Prez, that can't be an ongoing series.
And it's 12, right? I think it's a maxi series, which I love.
Yeah,
right.
It's 12.
Just bring back maxi series and miniseries. But the thing is, those words are poison now because people are waiting for the trade.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like if you hear a lot of people, if they hear the word miniseries, they immediately will wait for the trade for that.
Right. What was that? What was the DC the Arkham? Was it Arkham Manor?
Arkham Manor. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was totally a covert miniseries because they're like, oh, new ongoing series from Gary Dugan and Sean Crystal, Arkham Manor, and everyone's like, yay! And then they're like, oh, it's ending at 6 issues. And you always kind of knew that it was a pre-planned ending, but they wouldn't admit to it. I mean,
that's like what Iron Patriot was in Marvel, too. Like, the writers have signed on for only this many issues, and they probably aren't going to get more than that. Like, that's honestly what I expected, like, Cyclops to be. Like, I just expected that to end when Rucka left after 5 issues.
Right.
Like, and I don't know. I didn't keep reading after he left. I don't know if anybody else did, but...
I have to admit, I didn't even start.
We would have missed valuable chapters of Black Vortex if Cyclops was canceled.
You're a big Black Vortex fan, are you? No?
Oh yeah, no. This was the year where I had the delight of just gladly dropping things when crossovers got in there. So I was
Right.
like, oh, Axis is tying in. Goodbye, X Factor. Goodbye, Magneto. Like, you were fun, but I'll just pick up when you don't have this banner across the top.
But Axis was so good. No. I actually
I
read.
get it. I get what you were doing there. It was like opposites, like Axis. You flipped it on its axis.
I
It
actually didn't mean
sucked.
to, but okay. So going back to like the overarching question. So we're seeing all these different things. We're seeing all these changes. You know, we want more creators that are new and different and more fitting of their characters. But like, is there anything else that you'd like to see more from comics? Like, what would make I don't want to say comics more inviting, but like more like appealing to you in general? And I don't just mean Marvel and DC. Like, what is it that you're really liking right now? I guess.
I mean, a lot. I read so many comic books, but I really enjoy. Like, Drawn and Quarterly and Fantagraphics are always putting out like the most high quality, gorgeous, sophisticated stuff, and I don't think that's going to change. I would love like those are the kinds of voices that I think would be amazing for superhero comics, but at the same time, it's like I don't want them to get involved in that world really. Like, if you're flourishing so much outside of it, it's kind of like, did you see the Ava DuVernay is not directing Black
Right.
Panther? And I was like, well, yeah, no shit. Like, here's one of our very few kind of like female burgeoning auteurs.
Right.
I don't want her to get fucked by the Marvel machine. Like, I want her to get out of there and do her own stuff and find her own success without, like, I don't know. I can't imagine that working on one of those. It seems like it broke Joss Whedon. Like,
Yeah.
let's just look at like the most recent press tour for Avengers. Like, it doesn't seem like that's the most like enjoyable experience. But beyond that, I'm loving Image Comics right now. There's too much sci-fi, but even then, a lot of it's really good. Like, the sci-fi is different enough. Do you read Southern Cross?
I do. I really like Southern Cross.
That's like I like Becky Cloonan, especially as a writer. I think that she's like so good with getting out of the way and just letting her art do most of the talking. And I liked Andy Bellinger on books like Kill Shakespeare and stuff, but I had no idea that they would do such cool psychedelic genre bending stuff together on that book. It's been really cool.
Did you ever read any of the minis that Becky did? Like
Yeah, I've read I think at least those 3 one-shots that she did.
yeah,
Like Demeter and Wolves, and
the
I think
Mire.
there's one. Yeah, the Mire. I've definitely read those years back.
Yeah, I feel like that is like it. Obviously, like that's kind of a different angle than Southern Cross, but I feel like that's kind of a kind of where they're coming from, because I feel like she writes really good kind of psychological horror. Like really, like that whole collection, those three minis, like it reminds me a lot of Emily Carroll's Through the Woods,
Yes.
and
Oh my god.
and
Good.
I think that's I mean it's such a perfect angle for like a psychological horror sci-fi, because I mean it reminds me of that movie Event Horizon, which by no means was a classic, but at the same time it's kind of like that idea, just like the effects of deep space and how it can negatively impact your mind and everything. It's a really fascinating book.
I'm glad you bring up Emily Carroll, because like a couple days on Twitter, this has been something that has been on my mind for so long, but I want to see her do Batwoman so bad. I think that she'd be the most amazing creator, especially because Greg Rucka established it as sort of this mix of superhero and horror elements,
Yeah.
which I think like Mark and Draco picked up on. Well, and I know like Blackman and Williams did that too. I just didn't really care for the writing of those runs, but like I think Emily Carroll, she has the imagination that you kind of expect for Batwoman at this point, at least because of Williams. Like, I want those really cool layouts, and I want something that doesn't look like other comics. And
Right.
like, if this was DC 10 years ago, I could so easily imagine them doing like a 4-issue prestige format miniseries of just like Emily Carroll doing The Question and Batwoman in the forest or something. Like, oh, it'd be amazing.
I really love. I mean, I love the idea of those. Like, did you read the Valiant?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they just did, like, it wasn't quite. I mean, they called it Prestige, but it wasn't quite like, like Kingdom Come thick back and stuff like that. It was just
card stock.
Yeah, it was just card stock.
Nice card stock.
But I would really love to see, like, more types of things like that from Marvel and DC trying these different voices. Like, I mentioned this in a piece I wrote. Like, I don't see how Marvel or DC doesn't back a truck up to Raina Telgemeier's, like, door.
Oh, yeah.
And just be like, write Teen Titans for us, please. And like you could introduce so many new readers to those characters, or the ones that are already watching Teen Titans Go, and because they already love her work. If you said, "Oh, we have this graphic novel that's coming out that's a Teen Titans one written by Raina Telgemeier, who you already love," that book would sell a lot.
Yeah, I mean exactly. I tweeted Raina and Mariko Tamaki on an X-Men book would just be so killer, on a young X-Men book. Like, imagine if Marvel had announced like Mariko Tamaki and Noelle Stevenson on all new X-Men doing like the teen X-Men book. That could have been just like, I would be down there in a heartbeat. Like, Hopeless and Bagley, no offense to you guys, but I'm just not that interested. But if you're going to give me some really bold names like that, I would have been all over it.
I like, I like Hopeless a lot, but it seems so weird. Like, and I like Bagley. He's a super nice guy, but it's such a weird fit. It's like you have this. It was kind of like putting, once again, I like Mark Waid and I like Adam Kubert, but at the same time, why would you put them on a young character book? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like, I don't know. It just seems like an odd choice, but
yeah, I think that a big problem is that, and I feel like Alish Kott talks about this on Twitter a lot, is that the age of these creators is usually no less than 30. Like, especially with the writers, they're going to be all over the age of 30. Mm-hmm. And I mean, a lot of there's playwrights that are 20 years old getting stuff produced on Broadway. Maybe, I don't know. I feel like I absolutely made that statistic up. But I mean, historically, young people can do shit. Yeah.
I would hope so.
There is a 22-year-old out there that can write the most amazing X-Men story if you gave it to them. But I mean, just give it to, Jeff Lemire. There's nothing wrong with him. He's a great guy. But I've not been inspired by Jeff Lemire's team stuff. I guess I liked Frankenstein. Yeah. But like Justice League United did nothing for me. And I guess that's the only other one. But I just don't. I would have loved somebody different.
Yeah.
It's like the same complaint comes up over and over and over again. Like, I just wanted somebody different. And in this case, different is just this overarching word for a non-white man at this point. Non-white, non-male, non-straight, any of that would have been great. But we just got a lot of the same.
Right.
And it's like, if you want comics to grow and change, but it's all of media is the same way. It's like TV is also dominated by straight white men. And I don't know, is there any media that's not?
Not really, no. It's true, but
comics are small. They have the opportunity to not be that way. Like, there's not millions of dollars behind a comic book the way that there is behind a TV show or something. It's not this major crazy investment. You can do something different and it can garner huge results for you.
Well, and like we said, I mean, it's proven to be valuable. It's something that people respond to when they do actually do different things or things that kind of prove that they're listening to their audience at all. Did you know that Raina Telgemeier actually wrote a Young X-Men book before?
I feel like she must have done something for, like, did she do anything for for Strange Tales or anything like that? Or
no, she did. It was like, it wasn't a Strange Tales. She actually wrote like a kind of weird 4-issue kind of like manga inspired one where I think like, oh God, I gotta look it up.
I'm looking it up too right now.
It was. I remember talking. I was interviewing a librarian for an all ages week thing that I did for Multiversity. It was called
X-Men Misfits.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet that it was because it was published through Del Rey. It wasn't published through Marvel.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It was published through Del Rey Manga. So
Interesting.
it's not like I remember this. I remember that this existed. But yeah, it's owned by Del Rey Manga. But I mean, because of E is for Extinction, I went back and I've been rereading Grant Morrison's X-Men.
Yeah.
And that was just like so advanced, so far beyond anything X-Men is nowadays. Like, I guess that current X-Men is getting back to basics, but who wants back to basics at this point? Like, we've had basics a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go back or keep doing new shit. Like, just replace, you know what? Just kill them all. Kill Cyclops, kill Beast, Green, kill all of them. Have Angel and Beak and Cannonball and keep Kitty Pryde. But you know what? Just, like, give me some new blood. Get rid of the other stuff. Like, there's going to be people that are mad, but whatever. You want to make change happen, make it happen.
Yeah, I had so I did a thing on continuity this week, and I had a reader's poll.
I killed them all.
There's this a person commented on the poll where they said something. What was the line exactly? It's like Marvel and DC need to stop catering to the thousands when they could change things and cater to the millions. And you know, I think there's some validity there because it's. I think people just always assume that comics are going to be at this one level because that's the way that they are. But I don't think that that's the case. I think that it could be more if things were approached in a different way. I mean, look at Saga. Saga is a ridiculous over the top hit that like sells at bookstores like crazy, and it's different. It's way different than anything Marvel and DC are doing. It's something that appeals to people who, you know, aren't just like the guys who've been going to comic shops since they were, you know, 7. Once again, I'm speaking about myself. But, you know, I mean, I just think that the potential is there if they really want it. But I don't think they want it. I think that they just kind of want to maintain the same audience they already have. But
and a lot of it is it's becoming more of a corporate think tank in terms of these are like
it's a feeder.
Properties we can experiment with and see if they'll have any sort of longevity, and then maybe we can turn it into something else. And it's just not. They need to look also. Honestly, they can start looking outside of comics for talent. Like there was a time I feel about 10 years ago when Marvel was like really severely poaching TV writers and novelists and stuff. I mean, we had freaking Jonathan Lethem writing Omega the Unknown with Pharrell Dalrymple on art. That book should never have happened in a million years, and it is one of the coolest Marvel books of the last decade. Like
it was so weird. It was so
you want
weird.
You want an Avengers comic to sell? Go get Shonda Rhimes. Ask her if she wants to write Avengers. Like what? She writes 7 TV shows. I'm sure she has time to write a 20-page comic every month. Like you're own ABC's owned by Disney. She's got a contract there. Like reach out to these people. Find out if somebody wants to write a comic book. Like imagine going into a bookstore, Shonda Rhimes, Avengers. Like that shit's gonna sell like crazy.
That's actually kind of genius. That is super. That is hilarious.
Like you want some diversity? Here is Shonda Rhimes writing Captain America. Enjoy. Like I would be so down for that. And it's like I don't love Scandal and Grey's Anatomy and How to Get Away with Murder, but you know what? I'm entertained if that's on TV. Like if my roommate's watching it, and you know, goddamn well I'm showing up if she's writing a Marvel comic. Like and.
I think everyone would for sheer curiosity.
Yes. Oh my God. Sales of that book would be insane.
I would definitely read the first issue. Well, you know, and this is the last point I'm going to bring up. But I'm doing a kind of informal poll on retailers as to what their thoughts were on the all new, all different Marvel, and everybody likes it. All the retailers think it looks great, and I
saw a lot of people on Twitter also just being like, these look awesome.
Well, and I think a lot of the people who are very vocal about this stuff, and I'm happy for retailers if they think something's going to sell, because being a retailer in a lot of ways kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And I respect the hell out of them. Actually, my ultimate goal in comics isn't to write my own comics or something like that. I actually want to own my own shop.
Wow.
Which is a terrible idea. I'm like, yay, I'm going to buy a print shop. This is a really great idea.
I mean, Print's gonna come back, man. It's like everything's in cycles, and you know, there's a movement. Like people are learning to appreciate paper. Like after that, when they spend all day looking at a screen, you learn, like, you start to be like, oh my God, a book. Wow, it's bound, it's thick, it's heavy. This is different. There's a novelty in paper now. Dear God.
Oh my God, that is the fact that we're discussing the fad of paper is pretty hilarious.
Have you heard about this new thing? It's called papyrus.
It's like the internet, but if you put it on this weird substance that has actual, like, a soft feel to it, it's amazing. I
Like,
love
have
it.
you ever been to a website and wished you could hold it in your hands?
I guess I've had an iPad before, but this one you can actually turn pages. It's crazy. But no, I mean, like, it is kind of interesting how much the retailers like it, and it's probably because they know it'll sell. Like they know what to expect. Like I think that's the thing that a lot of retailers want more than anything is like the guarantee. And I don't know.
We don't like Greg Land, but I think Greg Land sells books. That's why Marvel puts him on stuff, because he's got a. I mean,
because he traces porn stars.
Maybe. Let's not forget what a big target, like a big core audience, loves their. What is it? What's the word?
Cheesecake.
Cheesecake. But Tim O'Neill at the AV Club, he did a review of, what's that book, Legends of Wonderland or whatever.
Oh God, Zenoscope.
Yeah, the Zenoscope, and it was like kind of this just epic piece on Zenoscope, and I think it's called Boob War or something, like a specific genre that's like the Jim Balance type of just like women with giant breasts and like thongs up to the middle of their waist, and like they usually have horns or wings or something.
Why not?
And they just fight each other in these sort of vaguely fantastic storylines, boob wars. But yeah, I mean, like, when I was 13, 14, I was reading my cross-gen Sojourns, and I loved Greg Land. I thought he was fantastic. And then, like, years pass by, and you begin to notice that every single person looks the same.
Yes.
Especially women. Like, there are a couple, like, there are some legitimately good pages on Mighty Avengers.
I agree.
That he did. But every so often you get like that full body shot of a woman that is like, nobody in their right mind looks that way unless they are in like a photo shoot in a magazine. Like it's this unnatural, it's honestly unnatural body language, which is like a legit critique of artists. Some artists are amazing with body language. Some of them suck. Some of them are great with facial expressions. Some of them suck. But you know what? Like, it's not going to stop Jim Lee from selling 250,000 books or whatever.
Right.
And I'm not saying Jim Lee sucks by any means, but it's like Jim Lee draws the same face. And that's kind of what like all of those 90s image artists do. They all have the same face. They have the same body type. They do very minimal changes to it. But like, compare somebody like Jim Lee to somebody like Adrian Alfona, who's going to draw people of all different shapes, all different sizes. They're going to have, faces that look different. Their noses are going to be a different size. Their lips are going to be a different shape. Their eyes might be a different shape. Like, who thought that you could, change cheekbones and a character looks different? I'm being such a bitch. I'm so sorry, companies.
No.
I love you. I love you, publishers. I really do.
No, I think that, taking some critical distance from this stuff and approaching it in like I think nothing we've said has been like completely outlandish, but I do. Well, I have to say one more thing about Greg Land. The first thing I ever read from him was the Phoenix Inn song.
Phoenix Inn song.
Yeah.
How do I'm like I keep saying I knew what you were gonna say too. Like, that's not obnoxious at all. But I was like, it's gonna be Phoenix Inn song, and that book is pretty sometimes, and then sometimes fucking weird.
Well, when I first read it, I was like, oh man, I like this. And it was like, this guy's really good. And then, like you said, you kind of realize that nothing ever changes. And the thing that bothers me the most about him is, why is everyone always smiling? Mm-hmm. It's like, I remember in his Uncanny run, I just like was like there. I think there was like a scene where everyone was super sad, but Cyclops was there with his like long hair and he's just smiling. I'm like, what is happening? How is this a thing? It's so weird. Anyways, well, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, that's an artist that just kind of draws however they want to draw the characters without paying any attention to the emotion in a script, which is like, I mean, it's a legit problem. A lot of artists, a lot of superhero artists especially, like, they just do their thing, and it's superheroes. They don't have to worry about like having this incredible emotional depth. So when you get like a David Aja,
I think it's Aha. Yeah.
It's Aja. Okay, good. On Hawkeye, and you get these really nuanced character expressions. You're like, oh my god, this is so amazing.
Yeah.
Like, this is what everybody should be doing all the time, because like the emotional life of these stories is what keeps me coming back. And once I stop caring about a book's characters, I just stop reading it. Like, and that happens so often with superhero comics, where like a writer kind of forgets to, especially when you have crossover after crossover or something where they're shoved into plot, which was such a big problem with the New 52.
Yeah.
Where you have everything is plot driven versus character driven. So you're kind of just getting big moments without any sort of personal stakes.
The one thing I really hope to see, whatever happens with all new, all different Marvel, the one thing I really hope to see is like I'm not saying like 5 years, but some sort of moratorium for events, because it really feels like Secret Wars is so big that they gotta take a break from that. Like I would hate to be the person who writes the follow up to Secret Wars, because that thing is, I don't know, I just think it's incredible, really.
I mean, and it was 10 years ago, whatever, when it was Quesada and Jemas, and they did a no crossovers thing. Mm-hmm. There was a good 5 years of no crossovers, and then I think House of M broke it.
Yeah.
But that's a long time without crossovers, and that was a time of this really amazing creative, like, just unbridled creativity at Marvel during that time. You had some really interesting stuff happening, and I feel like they're kind of regressing a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's fascinating because like it happened to coincide with a really, really down time in the industry, and like I don't know if they have some sort of mental correlation to that time being like, maybe this type of book won't work because it didn't work then, but the industry is in a completely different place now. It's just, you can't even compare the two. And we've seen lots of evidence that those types of books, like you were talking about, like, Vengeance, like I even think Vengeance would do better now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I appreciate you coming on and taking an hour of therapy with me.
Right. Just like bitching. No, it wasn't bitching. It was constructive criticism, right? Are you hearing us, publishers?
Yes. It's not
Fix yourself.
We don't think that you're doing poorly. We just think that you could be doing better.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's going to make them feel better.
You're not a complete disaster, but just fix things.
Exactly.
And I think the market's going to end up just kind of, who knows, because the direct market is so screwed up anyway. Like, it's so hard to get a successful book because it's all dependent on, like, pre-orders. And, like, at the current market structure, there's really no way to make things super friendly for casual readers. It's like, oh, you really like that one book? Well, make sure you go to the comic shop 3 months in advance and tell them to get you a copy of it so that book can survive. It's nonsense.
Yeah.
And a conversation for another day.
I was going to say, man, I could go way deep into that.
Let's not talk about the direct market, dear God.
All right, Oliver, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much. This was a lot of fun.